Hello everyone. It's great to have you all here for the Sitecore user group Jaipur Meetup today. We are excited to have Nelson with us. Nelson is a Sitecore Technology MVP for 2024 and 25 and currently working as a solution architect at Horizontal Digital. So today he will be sharing practical insights on building and deploying .NET Core SCM XM Cloud application along with the best practice from his experience. So Nelson, floor is all yours.
Hey everyone. Thanks for inviting me to join this Sitecore user group. Um, I would like to share my screen. Second, let me close my other windows. All right. And everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. Now what's happening? A second. It's not going in the presentation mode somehow. Okay, fine.
Just press F5, maybe.
I'm not sure it's going. Okay, okay, fine. That's it. Okay, thank you. All right. So let me introduce about myself. So as Sumit mentioned, like I'm Nelson. I'm working as senior solution architect from Horizontal Dubai. Um, so this is my LinkedIn. So if any doubts or any clarification need on this particular webinar, so please reach out to me so that I can support wherever I can. Okay, so the agenda for today's session would be like first thing, we can understand what exactly the ASP.NET Core for XM Cloud, as we have Next.js application as well available there in the market, and what is the SDK readily available for to consume to get started with this project, and we have a different way to set up the project. Like we have recently in XM Cloud, they have provided us with a beta way of project creation. Okay, something we can see how we can do that, and basically and then we can look for the model renderings. Okay, model binding options. So it's similarly how you do it in the Next.js application, similarly how we can do it model binding option in ASP.NET Core. Content resolvers, technically content resolvers is supported still in XM Cloud, but it should not be used as per XM Cloud as per Sitecore recommendation, but we'll still see how we can still do if your old client is still using those options. Okay, and some kind of a tunneling and metadata editing and something like that. We can see how can we do metadata editing, something we similarly do it in XM Cloud application with Next.js. Yeah. So basically, like what is basically ASP.NET Core for XM Cloud Sitecore? Okay, so if you guys remember, like a couple of years back, there is already JSON applications available for XM for XP and XM. Okay, not for XM Cloud, but it's available already there. So what happened basically, like the Sitecore thought of reusing the same code base for the XM Cloud application, and they actually did it. Okay, so when the XM Cloud they thought of using the ASP.NET Core application as well. So they use this old JSS SDK, and they actually used it to do the model binding and resolving the sites and everything. But recently, after 2024 September, so that old SDK is not in use. So it is still be in use, but no updates will be going to happen to the old SDK. But so we should go ahead and use the latest SDK, which is supported by the Sitecore. So this is the SDK where all kind of features will be getting added. Say for an example, if you see like personalization, analytics, and whatever the things, right? So the slowly they are adding to this new SDK, but at the moment it is under development process. So those function features are not there, but still it is progressing gradually. Okay. Second thing is, like as I mentioned, like it's still the old and the new way of consuming the data is basically through GraphQL client only. So we can even same like we can communicate with Experience Edge. We can grab our data from there, and we can consume it in our application. Also, to remember, like this ASP.NET Core also supporting context ID. It's not like the old way we can still need to use API key, API key. This is also support context ID, so it is easy to integrate in terms of the application perspective. Similarly, how we do it in the environmental variable for Next.js, we can just go ahead and do a small configuration settings in app settings.config file, and that's it. Your application will start running without any much of hassle. Okay. The other thing will be the model binding, as just mentioned. Like we have a lot of different kinds of model binding options. Like similarly, if you have worked with normal ASP.NET MVC application or other application, we would already been aware of a view rendering, view model binding, and partial views and all those things, right? Similarly, we will be also using the similar kind of options over here as well. We will see how easy it is for us to map the Experience Edge response into the view. Okay. So this is basically the request response flow of the current ASP.NET Core application. So basically, it's exactly the same. So when the user send out a request, so it exactly goes to your ASP.NET Core application. From the ASP.NET Core application, there will be a use rendering attribute will be there. So that attribute is basically responsible for communicating with the Experience Edge and get the GraphQL response from there and processing it into a serialized response and rendering the view. That's exactly this screenshot. So this is basically a high-level screenshot. So let's see how that actually implemented in the code. Okay, so I'll show the code as well. So these are all some of the starter kit and SDKs available readily for us to get started with this application. So as I mentioned, so this is the starter kit. So we can just clone it, and that's it. We just need to update only our site name if it is needed, the context ID, which environment you are targeting, and if you want to doing a page editing option, metadata editing option, so you just need to have JSON secret key. That's it. Our application will start running. Okay. This is an SDK. So basically, the SDK is we can think it as a NuGet packages. Okay. So end of the day, this giving us three NuGet packages to us, like basically like sitecore.ASP.NET Core libraries. So that will be used with this starter kit to do all kind of magic behind the scenes, like communicating with layout service, Experience Edge, converting the response and everything. It will does all the job for us behind the scenes. Okay. So the project creation, as I told about the new project creation setup. So basically, I will take you to the project creation setup right now. So the project creation setup is basically like if you as a user, I want to create a project. Okay, but I as a customer perspective, like they want two different website for me. Okay, at the moment in Sitecore in XM Cloud, the way if the client want two website and two different code base to maintain. Okay, so at the moment we are doing like one code base but with multi sites. That is what we're doing at the moment right now, right? So but if the client needs two separate code base for two different website, and this beta feature is the right place for us to get in. Okay, so basically this beta feature allow us to create a single project with multiple environments, and each and every environment will have its own code base. Okay, so you can change and push your GitHub repository or Azure DevOps repository for particular environment, and that environment will be properly updated, and other environment will not be impacted because of these things. Okay, so in order to enable this feature, so there is a set in the cloud dashboard. We need to just portal cloud. We just need to enable the settings. So this will allow us to do the project creation feature. So let me quickly go to that options. Okay. Where is it? Let me go to Edge. Second. Yeah. Okay. Fine. I can show you here. So basically, like what I'm trying to say here. So if you guys go here, this is the place. This is a apply cloud portal. So we can just enable this setting. So this settings will allow us to create a multiple code repository for projects. Okay, so if you could go to your project, okay, so you could see this is a beta feature. So I just created this project here. So this is a beta feature. So this is all this. You could see the other projects available. This is the current way of implementing the project where you just need to create a project, right? But here you can create a project, but this actually I have created here like two separate projects here. One is for .NET. So here I can go and specify the authoring environment and editing host environment. Okay, but this functionality is not available in the previous way of doing. So this way I can create my own environment. This is the .NET application. This is the Next.js application. Okay, and I can create a separate editing host for do editing for Next.js application. Okay, so these are all Next.js applications thing. For .NET at the moment, like we don't have a editing host available to create by default. At the moment, the starter kit doesn't include the editing host for us to do that. But in Next.js, yes, we have the editing host available. So what I meant to say here is that something. If you go ahead in here, if you see the build xmcloud.build.json. This is a cloned repository from Next.js application, the head application. So you could see like this is the rendering host where we can have this editing. This is the editing host basically. So it is available. But if you go ahead for .NET, so you could not see this particular rendering host section itself available over there in the .NET starter kit. Okay, that's what I saw. So what I have did, I just thought of doing that. Right, what is it? Okay, so I just go ahead here. As I said, we can create our projects. So these are all the running projects available. But if you want to do page editing and metadata editing, okay, so by default, Next.js app can have this kind of option to do that. But as I told, there is no such option for .NET. So even I tried to install with .NET, but I got an error saying like that rendering host is not available for me. Okay, so that is an error. I can show the error as well. So continue. If I should be here. Yeah. So basically, this is not available in the XM code build.json file because this is not available. So basically, there is a workaround for us to do the metadata editing for this the functionality. Okay, I will show how to do metadata editing without doing that option. Okay, without doing this editing host creation. Okay. Okay. Right. Let me go back here. Okay. All right. So let me go back to this document again. So this is how we can create a multiple code repository. So, but if you want to go ahead and see how we're gonna configure it, let me show you here. Create project. You can create any test here. Okay. You could see this is a starter kit by default. If you're using Next.js, so by default Next.js will be there. But for us, it's a .NET application, so we need to use our own code. So we need to go ahead and create our repository. So I can go ahead with my repository here. So this is my .NET repository. This is the cloned repository from the new starter kit. So I can click continue, and it will create my authoring environment successfully. Okay, but this will not create a editing host. But if I go with the Next.js application, by default, the editing host will be created for me. Okay, so that is with the difference between Next.js and the .NET applications. Okay, okay. Let me do the cancel of this one. All right. Okay. All right. All right. Now, okay. Now let's go to this model binding option, which is available for us to do this. As I initially mentioned, like we have different kinds of model binding option, which is view model, view component, model bound view, partial view, and default view. So basically, like if we go to the playground, like the GraphQL playground, where we can say like when we query for the item, the layout or item, so we get all the fields like context, route, placeholders, and all the properties, everything, right? So in Next.js, I think we have a TypeScript where we can have all the model created, and we will be binding all those things, right? Here, similarly, we have to create a model, but basically we can have the attribute which will automatically map for us behind the scene. So let me show you one by one, step by step for model bound view and every partial with everything. Let's go that in action right now. Okay. So so this is the base model. So base model, basically it will grab the function, the properties from the Sitecore layouts response. So basically, whatever the response we are getting from the experience stage, so this is the place where we will be the response will be transferred, basically serialized into the proper the model binding. Okay, so you could see like the Sitecore context property, component property. So basically, context properties, basically example, like we have Sitecore, we have the context node in the response. If we also have a route node in the response, right? So that will be a route property. If you go ahead with here, there will be also available different properties available. Let me show you all the available things. Wait a minute. Yeah, you could see like we have all available route fields, route properties, everything is available. So we can just go ahead and map the relevant information which we want to manipulate it. Okay, so let me undo this one. Okay. So while doing that one, so you could see like I am, this is all the base properties. I'm just trying to get all the components and other properties from here. So here next thing will be like example, if I go to some kind of a component, so this is exactly I can loop through the individual component properties, and based on this component property, all the fields will be mapped from experience stage, and I can just load it into my view. Okay. So but how can I do that basically, right? So first and foremost is basically let's go to program.cs, which is very important for us to understand how the process works here. Okay, so this is basically the program.cs. So I've not made any changes to this file. Only only one place I have changed it, but I'll talk about that later. But this is a default thing. Okay, so this is not needed right now. So let's remove this one. So this is the default concept, but you could see there is something called add multi-site. So if we want to enable a multi-site options, then we need to enable the services. So all the dependencies, all the services, everything will be added to here. And if you want to enable the properly the so if you want to enable the multi-site here, so you can also have it here. This is exactly where you are enabling the middleware. Okay, so this is responsible for all your multi-site behavior. Okay, and you could see like here there is a rendering engine will be available. So like where is the rendering engine? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so this is the rendering engine. This is responsible for all our the request and response. So basically, like if a user browses from the URL, so this rendering engine is responsible for getting the edge call, converting the response to the relevant model binding. Everything this will actually doing all the magic behind the scene. Okay, so basically this is the one which is responsible for us, and also you could see like all kind of layout service and everything. We are this is a container one, so not for us basically if you're not using container based application, but basically this is for us if you're not using container. Okay, so and you could see like we are using the context ID. Basically like each and every site will have its context ID, right? In an environmental variable we will be setting up the context ID and the site name example, right? If you want to target a specific site name, we can mention the site name. But again, for multi-site environment, we no need to specify the site name. By default, based on the host name which is configured in the CMS, it will be dynamically resolve the site name. But if you want to go and configure the site name in app setting, yes, there is no problem. We can still go ahead and configure that site name as well here. So whatever the site name is configured in the app setting, that will be considered as your site, and only the content from that site would be resolved. Okay. So yeah, this is the process of loading the content. But so by default, there will be only one endpoint available, only one route available for us, which is this default controller route. So by default, initially, as I mentioned, this use Sitecore rendering is responsible for all the thing which I just mentioned, like it will pass this request from the browser to the rendering engine we just talked about. That is responsible for converting the layout service response and everything. Okay. So once we got the response, and this will properly load the content. Okay. I can show you this thing in action quickly. Okay. So this is a site which is configured in CMS right now. Okay. So you could see here, by default, it is resolved the site name as site A. Okay. I don't have a site name here. Might be I have anywhere. Let me check that one more time. Yeah, I have a site name here. Okay. So basically, whatever the site name I'm giving here, so by default, that site name is result, and relevant content is actually coming from me. So if I click F5, and the site will be loaded for me. Okay, so basically that's it. So the settings very simple for me. Just a context ID, the site name, editing secret. Okay, as I told, the default site name is not mandatory at all. If you properly configure your domain name in the CMS, and if it is published. Okay, so based on that, it will dynamically resolve the site name. But if we want to make a hard-coded site name, yes, we can still go ahead and do that. Okay. All right. This is how it is actually happening. Now let's talk about the model binding, which we just told about. So basically, if you go here, so this is one file we will be doing all kind of a model binding options. Like we need to make sure all the components availability. Like again in Next.js application, we need to map all the components TXX files, right? Similarly, we will be also doing the component binding here. So example like here, these you see this title, container, columns, beta. These are all the components which is these are all the JSON rendering component which is created in Sitecore, and this is a relevant POCO object, which is a model which need to be binded for us. So at the moment, as I told, we will be having different kinds of model binding option, which is uh, model bound view, okay, and partial view components, which is this one, add view components, and there is also a default partial view is also available. So these are the options which is available for us. Okay, so if you go back to Sitecore, so right now we have so here I have created some couple of components. So not from the out of the box. It is something I have created to just give some sample demo. Okay. Apart from the one which is already predefined. Okay. So I have created a component called card. Okay. So which is just normal JSON rendering. So we can still whatever the we are using XM Cloud in Next.js. The similar way here also we're doing it as a JSON rendering only. No big change here. The only thing is here, similarly, we need to add the relevant component to the presentation details of the page. And yeah, that's it. Like basically, once this is properly added to the available rendering options, if it is coming in the layered service response, okay, so it will be automatically binded to this particular here. So here is a card example. So if you go to this model binding option, as previously mentioned, so it has title, description, and link and image field, right? So if you go to my example, which I just showed, did I close it? Okay, I have closed it. Okay, so this will automatically map to these fields here. This is a card component. Let that load, while I can mention other options as well. So this is basically a model bound view. So basically I can just create a component, okay, without doing anything. I will be using out of the box Sitecore fields, and there is no difference in it. Automatically when I create the relevant properties here, automatically that will be mapped based on these settings. Okay, this basically this one. This is basically what I'm doing it here. So this is basically my card. Okay, so you can still go ahead and with a single here, what I just mentioned, like if you could see here. So it's component name / view name. So basically what I'm trying to say here, okay, go ahead and look for this particular component and look for this particular view from this file, which is under components So this is the structure where we need to provide all our components under components and Sitecore component. This is where all our model bound view components will always look for. Okay, so here I have actually added the card component. So whatever the structure I have created here, this will load for us. Okay, so this is exactly my component. So yeah, this one. This is a card component. I think this one is a card component. Yeah, this one is a card component. Yeah. Yeah, so that is actually loaded for me. Okay, this is a card component, but this is coming as a content resolver card component. Okay, the reason behind that is this is a card component, right? Okay, sorry, this one. Yeah, this one. And yeah, all right. I have multiple components created. Okay, now, so that is one way of binding the card component. Now the second thing is you can still go ahead and go with integrated GraphQL query as well. So this is the other options where we can still go ahead and create my GraphQL query here. I just created the GraphQL query here based on the context item. I'm just looping through all the children. So this is exactly what it is showing here. It's a GraphQL card component here. So this is also nothing like, as I could say, I'm just looping through the same thing here. And if you go ahead here and see, the structure would be kind of similar, but here there is one difference. You see here, I'm not defining any kind of attributes over here because this is something a GraphQL component. So I have created as a structure a model like this one because this is not a default model binding. This is something I created my own GraphQL. This is so basically here. Editing option will not be available if you go to when you use this kind of options. If, say for example, if you use out of the box options, something like this one, not this one. Basically, if you use this one, the editing option will be coming for you. But if you use string or something like, your editor option will not be available because this is not a the default bounding. This is basically we are trying to use a site .NET way of binding. Okay, this is the Sitecore way of binding. So we will talk about all this available field which is available for calendar, date, time, speaker, image, link, and everything. So when we use this kind of field, okay, this is coming from ASP.NET Core model fields, right? If you see here, so if you use this kind of fields, we can go ahead and do the page editing option for this particular fields. If you go and use normal site .NET way of doing that, we can't do an editing option over here. Okay, so we can still go ahead and do a normal way of component. We can still go ahead and create a GraphQL component. So for registering it, again, I have did the same thing. I just do the same model bound view only here with the GraphQL model name and what is the component name in CMS and what is the file which I need to look in the view. Okay, so that's exactly how I did it. So this is purely about the model bound view. So there is one more view is called a view component. Okay, so what do you mean by view component? So it's nothing different. Like if you already work with ASP.NET Core .NET way, so basically like if you want to do any custom logic or third-party calls, like you want to fetch an API endpoint and get the response from there, and you want to provide the data to the front end. Yes, exactly. This view component will be used in this case. Add model bound is basically you are trying to get the data from Sitecore. This component is basically you are getting a data from a third-party application. Okay, so in case if you want to do a third-party application, something like that, but if you want, and we can still go ahead and do that as well. So I have added it here. Okay, basically like this is the process. This is a way we need to bound the view component. So yeah, if you could see here, I just need to create a constructor, and this is basically our method to invoke our component data. So here you can have all our API endpoint calls, and we can process the model, and we can finally give it to their view. Okay, so this is what I'm doing it here, and this is basically a dynamic card. Okay, so this is coming here as this something you could see here. Randomly, I just updated some text here. So this is the text which is actually showing up over here as well. So by default, it will whatever we getting it from the API, that will show for us, and the way we can inject that one is through add view component. Okay, and yeah, So this is the component name. This is the view name, basically. Yeah. So last but not least is for this model binding option is the partial view. Okay, so partial is again this depends upon the output of the existing view. Say for an example, like example, like if you want to show a error page, okay, example, okay, but you need to get data from some route parameter from layout service, right? Instead of going through this model binding option, you can directly access the route parameter and you can project that information as well. So I can show one sample for this one, the default or partial view. So this is the place when this is out of the box which they provided for us, but still we can go ahead and create our own examples here. So here when there is no page available, so just they're loading as a model.name. So what is exactly the content is coming from, and that's it. So where I'm registered this one. So this is actually registered in program.cs file as add default partial view. So I'm just updating the view name here. There is no where we are binding the model from, right? Which we are directly doing it. So basically, I'm just targeted here. So we can still go ahead and do this kind of a model binding option for us as well. Okay. So that's purely about the model binding options. So now let's go to this field mapper option. As I mentioned, we have a different types of field mappers and tag helpers available for us. So like this one, this is basically like how your DOM you need to update the HTML. This is how we need to do the POCO implementation. So basically, if you go to any kind of a component which is created, go to code here. Sorry, here. So you could see the all kind of a markup tag. This is all a tag helper which is available. So this is basically coming up for a text component, link component, an image component, and you could see this is a card component, and exactly this is what it has been shown here. Link component, image component, and text component. So you could see this is one text here I shown here. This is my component here. This is exactly the same. I can still access the component data sources and all those things, which what is the current data source I'm fetching. So we can get all kind of data. This is nothing much here. So if you go back, if you want to know how I actually get the data source here, which is very straightforward. So basically here we can get all kind of information here, like a name, data source. Even we can have other properties as well here, like if you could see name parameters and all those things. Instead of, if you don't want to go ahead of this method, we can still use this default data, something like that. Okay. Let me undo this one as well. Okay. So as I told, text box field, rich text field, hyperlink field, image field, these are all the things which is supported right now. And yeah, numbers, images, similar relevant things will be available. This is basically a placeholder for us to do it. Okay. The next thing is like, now we have created our pages, we have created the sites and everything, but now I want to do the page editing option. Okay, so which is recently introduced, right? So the metadata editing, whatever you say. So but how can I do that basically, right? So basically we can go ahead and do using our local host directly without going to create any dev tunnels for that. We can just go ahead and you can just go ahead and launch it. Let me go ahead and do that here. Let me refresh this one. Okay. So right now it is in localhost 5001. Okay. So it's actually hitting my application. So basically my application is basically localhost only. Okay. So you could see my content is loaded actually. So on all components, whatever you seen there, it's there. I can still edit this button. So you see, I can still edit, but as I told you, you can't edit this one because this is just a text. But this something whatever I created it as the image field or a text field or hyperlink field, which I can go ahead and do all the editing options. Okay. So that is exactly what it's happening. But there is other option which is available for us, the default editing host. Okay, this is the local host editing host. This is the local host way of doing. But there is other option called default editing host. If I go ahead and do that, so you could see some different issue here. Okay, so let that load. But again, it's going to hit my application only. End of the day, let's see it. Yeah. So right now what's happening basically, if I go here in CMS, so that's also working, right? So the site A is loaded. So both ways doing, but so here is my default rendering host available. Okay. So you could see I have used the tunneling options over here. Okay. The reason behind that, if I directly put localhost, somehow it is not communicating with my not editing host is not working. So I have to use this this particular the tunneling options. Then only this editing options working when I'm using the default editing host option. Okay. But without this option, I can still go ahead and use local editing option. Okay. This option will always work for me. Okay. This option will be always work with localhost. But if I want to go ahead to uh, default editing host, there's multiple options. Either we go with tunnel, or you should publish a site which is available live, publicly available, maybe in Azure or somewhere, so that we can provide that link in CMS, something here, and it will start loading. Okay. But there is a challenge here. Okay. So what I mean by challenge here, basically, if I go to CMS, sorry, in my application, if I remove the site name here, okay, then this editing option will not load for us, because by default what is happening in this environment, okay, so it is actually looking for the site name. Okay. But page editing option is looking for site name if you want to do page editing. Okay. But in real time application, if you don't want in the live environment where public facing site, you don't need to specify the site name, because by default it will be resolved. Okay. Let's go to this one. Was still loading. Okay. Okay, let that load. So still hitting my application, but you could see there is an error. Okay, so it is actually looking for a site name in if you want to do a page editing option with default thing, because by default the page editing option is expecting the site name. Okay, but as I told, if you want to do a live site with multi-site, no need of page editing, no need of site name to be provided. Okay, I hope that is clear. Okay. And you could see one more thing I want to show in the code level as well before getting to other topic. Let me redo that one. Okay, so you could see like this, as I told, this is the place where we are actually getting all kind of informations, right? Like layered service response and everything. This is responsible for that one. But if you could see here, we have, like, as I told, result site name is EA, and all kind of data, everything will be provided basically. Okay. All right. So let me go back to the same thing here. So by default, like, we have two tunneling options available for us, which is by default Visual Studio. If you go here to the Enterprise Edition, I think we can be able to achieve that without any problem. But if you don't have Visual Studio 2022, because by default Visual Studio 2022 only supporting the dev tunnels. But if you don't have that one, we can still go with NGRock. Setting up in Visual Studio 2022 is very easy. You could go ahead here, but you should need to have some Azure access. So by default, it will be available here. You can go ahead and see the dev tunnels. So you can create a tunnel, and yeah, you can set it up, the name, whether your tunnel should be persistent or temporary, it should be public or something like private or something. But in order to do this activity, we should make it as public. So then only your CMS can able to access this particular dev tunnel. Okay. And then if you go with NGRock, so we need to install the NGRock exe package in Windows machine. So once that is done, we can just go ahead and see the NGRock options available. So it's basically like, once I install, I can get this information. So now you know, like, once I run this one, by default this is running in localhost 5001, right? So I can just go ahead and say, like, NGRock HTTP whatever the local host. I don't want to go with 5000, so I'm gonna do with some 3001 or something. So if I go ahead and do that, so it will create me a public thing endpoint for me. So this thing I can configure in Sitecore for my tunneling options. Okay, so I can do that. Where it is that Sitecore? Yeah, I can just go ahead and provide it here, here, and here. So if you don't have that options available, okay, so that is how we can go ahead and do the tunneling options. Okay, the next thing is basically the content resolver thing. Okay, as I previously mentioned, content resolver is still supporting, but we should not use. But if you have a legacy or something, you still want to do the content resolver, there's no harm in it right now, so we can still use it. So so it's very easy. Basically, like we content resolver can be done through the authoring application. So by default, the starter kit has authoring application and the head application. So so I can show you basically this is an authoring application. So we can just go to the platform and I can just go ahead and add a content resolver here. And I just deployed it to my app. Okay. Through CI/CD pipeline through GitHub. So automatically when that is published, it is actually deployed. Okay. All right. So let me go back to the sheet here. All right. All right. Multi-site setup. Yeah, as this is already discussed initially, like how to do the multi-site setup and everything. So we'll talk. We'll see that in a live scenario right now. Like how can it dynamically resolve when there is a two sites available? Okay. Let me go to CMS and let me configure the two sites right now for our demo purpose. Okay. So I have created two sites here, which is site A. Okay, I don't. This name is still there, but that's fine. But I have created it as site as in site A in the site node. Okay. So let's change the domain name here to the new site, which we're gonna target, which is my tunneling options. So basically, I can go ahead and look for site A tunnel and site B tunnel. Okay, I created two tunnels here. So and also I'm gonna do removal of this particular settings, the site name settings from here. Okay, which is not needed right now. So I will saving this one. Let me save it here. So I want to grab that the tunnel URLs from there. So that's the reason I'm just running this application. So let me grab this tunnel here. So this is basically a site B. So I grab this one. So this is selected site B. So I'm going to CMS. So I should go here. I'm gonna update the site B tunnel here. Okay. Okay, let me do that. I can save it. Let me run the site A as well to get this URL from there. So this is my site A tunnel URL. Let me close this one as well. So I can go ahead and here. I just replace this one as well. So now I have two different bindings for two different URLs. So basically now I just need to publish. Basically there's one challenge right now here. When you change any kind of a site name here, if you just publish a site name, it is not reflecting. So we need to publish the whole node with the republish option, then only it is publishing. So this is something we already raised to the responsible persons from Sitecore. But yeah, but as of now, this is the only way we can do the publishing option when there is any change to the site. Okay, so I'm just trying to publish it here. Okay, so while that is publishing, okay, so let's talk about. I think we already talked about this one, right? Yeah, fine. Let me let this complete in that case. All right, let's is completed right now. Okay. Okay, now what I can do, let me go back to CMS here. Sorry, not this one, sorry. This application. Okay, now this is basically one site which is which is basically resolving a site A, as I told, which is, you could see here, by default this dev tunnel is pointing to site A, right? So this is by default site connected to site A. Okay, but what I can do, go to Sitecore one more time to fetch the URL of site B from here. Still this is loading. That's completed. Let me put it here. And this is a different URL. So if you could see here, this is site B. So basically it is resolving the site. Okay, but I don't have anywhere the site is mentioned here. There's no site default name. I can still go and show you guys the app settings as well. Nowhere that site is defined here. Okay, so by default this is resolving, and both site will load for us basically. How to refresh this one? F5. Okay, you could see this is site B and this is site A. Okay, this is loaded. Okay, the images might not be loaded right at the moment, because I could show example why this image is not loading for some reason. So basically you could see this is the dev tunnel URL. This is not an edge URL, because at the moment I'm pointing it to the preview and preview context ID. But if I point it to the edge the experience edge context ID, then the image will automatically load. Okay, so that, because that is coming from experience edge platform. Okay, but here the reason, if you go to Sitecore and if you just put star here, if you get put star here, all the images will load by default, because now this is by default taking this URL, the out of the box default XM Cloud URL, and it will load the images properly. Okay, so that is something for our understanding as well. All right. So now we saw how to resolve the multi-site without any way to provide the site names. Okay. Now we can go ahead and see um, this one, live editing as well. Okay, sorry, the default editing. Okay, so now I want to do, I actually have a site live available. So I need to have the site to be configured in the CMS, similar like dev tunnels, and I want to do metadata editing, page editing as well. But how can I do the publishing? So the publishing is very simple. If we are using Visual Studio publish options, which is straightforward. If you already have the subscriptions available, so I just do the normal way of deploying. But again, it's we can do a different way of deploying basically. Like if you directly go to Azure portal, or you can go to AZD way of doing it. A different way is there, but I'm just thinking it's easy for me to go ahead and with the Visual Studio way of publishing. So I just created options. Let me go to overview. Okay, sorry. Wait a minute, what I'm doing? Okay, publishing, right? Okay. All right, so I'm just going to create a new profile. If I want to create a new profile, let me go to Azure, and I can just still go ahead and do whatever this app service and something available. So in that case, I selected Windows. I need to create an app service here. This is my app service. Once everything is done, configured, I can just hit publish, and all the things will be deployed automatically. Once that is deployed, and this will be available for me in the portal. This is something. You could go ahead here and see this is exactly working in the portal right now. Okay, so this is a live site here. But again, as I said, this is now pointing to a this portal also, whatever the code base I actually having now. So this is exactly it one. So but if I targeted this one to the live context ID, the image will by default load. So let me go ahead and load the live context ID, which is from the authoring environment. Let that load. Okay, context ID. This is site A, right? Okay. Okay. As I mentioned, like I already have a Azure resources just created for me. So let me restart that one because I changed the config file, so it will not immediately impact. So I have to restart the application. That's how it's working at the moment. There is no hot reloading options available. So the one way is to do the restart the applications. Okay. So once I did that, now when I try to hit this one, this should try to get the images from the experience edge. Still that is not restarted. It should give me 500 error, 503. Yeah, now it is giving 503. Okay. It's taking time to start. Okay, anyway, let that start. While that time, we'll quickly check. This is a deployment option, as I mentioned previously. So this is, you could see like all the default context ID, site name, context ID, everything will be updating for the deployment purpose, and we are doing the deployment. Okay. All right. In case if I want to, initially, as I mentioned before, like in case you guys already have ASP.NET Core JSS application before, and if you guys want to upgrade it to the new latest NuGet packages, so we need to go ahead and remove all kind of the old ASP.NET DLLs, and we need to update these 3 important DLLs, which is responsible for this entire thing. Okay. So basically, like if you want to do experience editor support, which this is something needed, but at the moment we now no need this one, because area we will be doing mostly page editing option for now. But so by default, this is more than enough for us. So initially, as I mentioned, the rendering engine is responsible for the layout service, call, edge, getting the data from experience edge, everything. This is responsible, and yeah, both this communicating with each other, and this will only support in .NET 8, the old SDK supporting in .NET 6. But if you want to go ahead with these latest features, we should go ahead and use .NET 8 version. Okay. Let's see. Okay, see, now the site is actually loaded, and the request should be coming from the experience edge right now. So yeah, you see the edge URL is available here. By default, now the images are loaded perfectly fine. All right. Okay. All right. The last one thing, as I told, I have one thing I have missed it, but something I can mention here, which is this important option. If you're using any local tunneling, without this option, this local tunnel will not work for you guys for doing metadata editing, which is, sorry, not metadata editing, default editing, okay, which is the reverse, the forwarder proxy, forwarder option basically, okay. By default, this is not available in the current code base, which is, if you take the starter kit, this will not be available over there. So this is something we need to add in it, so that your tunneling option will work. So without this option, if you configure the tunneling option in the CMS, the default editing option will not work basically. If we want to show that one, basically, this one you see, right? This one will not work even you have the site name option. So I can go ahead and show it to you guys. Let me stop this one, and let me comment this one as well. So I can still have a site name here, here. I can just save it. Okay. Okay. All right, that's loading. Okay. Now you could see, like we have already mentioned this particular place where we already okay, we already have the tunneling option, which is this one is already created for us, which is RL 5001, right? Similarly, we should be receiving this one, RL 27, right? Okay, yeah, the same thing, yeah. So which is there, but if I go ahead and do the editing option, which will not load right now as well. So let me refresh this page. This will still go ahead and call my code base, okay? Because it's still going to hit my code base, so there is no problem in hitting the code base. But at the end of the day, this particular response, okay. It's loading. Oh, okay, fine. Actually, this is site A. Okay, I'm just putting it for site B or something. Okay, anyway, but that's something you should not load basically. It's something is no loading, but usually it will not load because that's what I have verified. But this is very important point. So if you have any tunneling option created, so better we will create this forward for options or any unnecessary issue later point of time. So this particular piece of code is important for us. So basically, this is nothing. Basically, like I just added the forwarded options. Like this, basically, it's looking for X forwarded for and X forwarded rows. That's it. There's no much thing over here as well. Okay, that's mostly from my side on this particular topic. If there is any questions, then let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, hi Nelson. We have a couple of questions in the chat window. So if you see, we can start with the first one.
All right. I think there is no question.
Okay, in the chat
Yes.
window. So I'll read it for you if you want.
Thanks everyone. I hope at least it would be helpful if you guys start in future about with respect to ASP.NET Core. I think this will be
Am I
helpful. I
audible?
think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Am I
Thank
audible?
you.
Yeah.
Yes, Rinku. You are.
Okay.
Might be some
Nelson,
issue.
yeah, maybe some issue with your
Rinku,
end.
are you
Nelson, can you
talking?
hear us? Yeah.
I'm not able to hear.
Okay. Uh,
Hello.
can you please see the chat window?
Hello.
Hello. Yeah, Nelson, there are some couple of questions. If you see the chat window. Okay, seems there are some network issue at Nelson end.
Yeah, I can able to. Yeah. Sorry. Hello.
Hello. Yeah. Can you
Yeah.
hear us?
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. There are some couple of questions in the chat window.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. What are those? All right.
Okay.
Okay. So questions basically like how we see in terms of performance as compared to Next.js. Okay. See, in terms of performance, right? So basically, this we are not using any kind of a Blazor app or something, right? Because Next.js is something we already use SSG and all those options, right? And that is definitely better performance compared to this one. But basically, as for a .NET developer, it would be easy in terms of the maintainability and all those things as well. But as I mentioned, like there we are in discussion with them, like whether it is possible to migrate to Blazor app, because by default .NET Core is also supporting. It's by the common framework, right? So everything is standard. So maybe in future they will be go with the Blazor app. So that might be some performance improvement. But at the moment, it is as usual. Like it's not gonna beat Next.js in terms of performance. All right. Any limitation that we can't do in .NET Core? Yes, as I initially mentioned, like personalization is not possible, something like that. So all the features whatever available, it's very bare minimum right now. Like you can go ahead and create a website, you can publish, and even you can't by default if you use Next.js, right, you can directly go ahead and you do sitemap.xml, robot.txt, and all those functions are added in the SDK, right? But this SDK in this starter kit doesn't have those sitemap.xml on all those features like embedded personalizations or other things which is not available at the moment right now. So we should be considering all those things if you want to go ahead with this one. But for time to market, this will be faster because as most of the people are in .NET developers, so I think it will be faster for them to do that. In talk with Sitecore people, they say it faster than Next.js, but it's not proven. Yes, exactly. Yes, it's not that faster compared to Next.js. Yes. Content SDK for XM Cloud introduced. So any update on .NET Core SDK? So as I mentioned, like so, Content SDK is something different. Okay, that is purely for the JS for the Next.js application. But this particular thing is in beta right now. So whatever the SDK we are starter kit or SDK what we are seeing right now, it is beta 1.0. So it is still growing. So the like Rob and Ivan is constantly working towards this one. So yeah, they keep on pushing a lot of changes, and they already have a lot of backlog items which we are seeing in the Next.js application. So they are trying to migrate one by one functionality from there to here. But yeah, anytime it will not happen anytime soon. But yeah, they are actually doing it. So there is I can quickly share that a GitHub repository where they already logging everything. But if you have any kind of suggestions or anything, we can go ahead and do that as well. GitHub. Sorry, not developer portal. So as I said, like this is the starter kit basically. So where you can have all kind of issues. We can see they are still working on. It's closed, right? Let's open closed. So they're still looking into all kind of features. So if you guys feel anything, but because here I also raised some couple of issues as well. So they are responding immediately on those issues. So yeah, we can go ahead and ask them like to see like they're looking for page editing and all those things. They are doing it. Similarly, there is a SDK is a separate repository altogether. That is the place where they are doing like all kind of integration like open items and everything. They mentioned everything over there. Okay. Anything else? That is a chat.
I think, Nelson, I think there's no more questions. So thank you
Yeah.
For this wonderful session. And thank you all for joining.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Nelson, for a great session.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.